Few crimes in British history have left a scar as deep as the Moors murders. A seemingly ordinary couple, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, became the faces of pure evil, luring children to their deaths and burying them on the desolate Saddleworth Moor. In the early 1960s, Britain was changing. The country was recovering from the war, youth culture was exploding, and Manchester was alive with music and energy. But beneath this wave of modern life, Ian Brady, a man fascinated by Nazi ideology and sadism, met Myra Hindley, a young woman drawn to his charisma and darkness. Together they would form a partnership that would shock Britain forever. Between 1963 and 1965, Brady and Hindley targeted children and teenagers. They posed as an ordinary couple, often using Hindley's appearance to lower suspicion. Their victims, Pauline Redd, John Kilbride, Keith Bennett, Leslie Ann Downey, and Edward Evans, were lured away with promises of a ride home or small favors. The pair would drive them out to the vast, windswept Saddleworth Moor. There, the children were brutally murdered. Some were buried in shallow graves, the barren landscape becoming their final resting place. Perhaps the most disturbing part of this case wasn't just the murders, but how calculated they were. Police later discovered photographs taken by Hindley of her smiling on the moors, standing near the very graves of the children. Even more horrifying was a tape recording of 10-year-old Leslie Ann Downey's final moments. The tape captured her cries and pleas as Brady and Hindley tormented her. It was this recording that haunted investigators, jurors, and the public for decades to come. In 1965, their reign of terror ended. Police, investigating the murder of Edward Evans, found Brady at the crime scene. Hindley's brother-in-law, David Smith, had witnessed part of the killing and alerted authorities. At trial in 1966, the public heard the horrifying evidence, photographs, tapes, and witness testimony. Brady and Hindley were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. The nation was stunned. Newspapers branded them as the most evil couple in Britain. For decades after, the Moors murders haunted Britain. Families of the victims, especially Keith Bennett's mother, continued to search for closure. Keith's body has never been found. Ian Brady died in 2017, still unrepentant. Myra Hindley died in 2002, after years of unsuccessful attempts to prove she had changed. But their names remain etched into British history as symbols of cruelty and corruption of innocence. The Moors murders are a chilling reminder that evil can hide in plain sight. An ordinary couple on the surface, but behind closed doors, they were monsters. To this day, the windswept Saddleworth Moor isn't just a lonely landscape. It's a graveyard of innocence, and a reminder of crimes Britain will never forget. For nearly 6 years, a shadow stalked the streets of northern England. Women lived in fear, police were overwhelmed, and the press gave him a name that struck terror into every home: the Yorkshire Ripper. In 1975, the body of 28-year-old Wilma McCann was found in Leeds. She had been brutally attacked. At first, police believed it was an isolated crime, but soon, more bodies appeared. Similar methods, same brutality. The killer was targeting women, often sex workers, but not always. Fear spread like wildfire. Women were warned not to go out alone. Taxi drivers refused fares. In the towns of Yorkshire, no one felt safe. The man behind the murders was Peter Sutcliffe, a seemingly ordinary lorry driver. By day, he blended into society. By night, he prowled the streets, armed with hammers and screwdrivers. Sutcliffe believed he was on a twisted mission to rid the streets of what he considered immoral women. But his delusions of purpose didn't match the reality. He killed indiscriminately, claiming the lives of mothers, daughters, and students. The investigation became one of the largest in British history. Thousands of men were interviewed. Millions of documents piled up. But police were misled by a cruel hoax. Recorded tapes and letters sent to detectives, pretending to be the killer. The hoaxer's Geordie accent earned him the nickname Wearside Jack, and for years, investigators chased the wrong lead, while Sutcliffe continued killing. By 1981, Sutcliffe had taken the lives of 13 women and attacked at least 7 others. His reign of terror finally ended not through brilliant detective work, but by chance. Sutcliffe was stopped by police in Sheffield for driving with false number plates. Suspicious items were found in his car, and within days, he confessed. At trial, Sutcliffe attempted to plead diminished responsibility, claiming he heard voices from God, commanding him to kill. The jury rejected this, convicting him of multiple counts of murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, later given a whole life tariff, ensuring he would never be released. The Yorkshire Ripper case left deep scars. It exposed serious failings in police investigations, particularly in how they dismissed evidence and mishandled interviews. It also highlighted damaging attitudes toward women at the time, with many victims blamed for their lifestyles. Peter Sutcliffe died in prison in 2020, but his crimes remain a grim reminder of how fear gripped an entire nation. For years, the streets of Yorkshire were haunted by a man hiding in plain sight. The Yorkshire Ripper wasn't a monster from folklore. He was an ordinary man whose brutality shattered lives and changed Britain forever. Behind the doors of an ordinary home in Gloucester, England, lurked one of the most disturbing chapters in British criminal history. For 2 decades, Fred and Rose West hid their crimes in plain sight, turning their house at 25 Cromwell Street into a place of unimaginable horror. Fred and Rose met in the late 1960s. On the surface, they looked like a normal working-class couple raising a family. Neighbors saw smiles, children, and the comings and goings of everyday life. But behind that facade, the Wests were predators. Together they formed a partnership built on cruelty, control, and sadism. 25 Cromwell Street soon gained a dark reputation. Inside its walls, the Wests committed acts of abuse, torture, and murder. They lured young women, some runaways, some lodgers, and, shockingly, even their own children's friends, with the promise of safety. Instead, the victims met a fate too horrific to fully imagine. Many were killed, dismembered, and buried in the cellar, the garden, or beneath the floorboards. Neighbors noticed strange smells, constant building work, and unexplained disappearances. But for years, no one uncovered the truth. The nightmare began to unravel in 1992, when one of the West children revealed the abuse happening inside the home. Police investigations followed, and suspicions grew. Finally, in 1994, authorities searched 25 Cromwell Street. What they found shocked Britain. Human remains buried in the garden and beneath the house. One by one, the victims were uncovered. Among them was Fred's daughter, Heather West, whose disappearance had long been explained away with lies. Fred West was arrested, but before he could face full justice, he took his own life in prison on New Year's Day, 1995. Rose West stood trial later that year. The evidence was overwhelming. She was convicted of 10 murders and sentenced to life imprisonment, with no chance of release. The case of Fred and Rose West horrified Britain. Their crimes weren't just about murder, they exposed how evil could hide in plain sight. Behind the curtains of a seemingly normal family home, 25 Cromwell Street was eventually demolished, but the memories remain. The address is now gone, but the phrase "the House of Horrors" will never be forgotten. Fred and Rose West turned their own home into a place of terror, burying their victims beneath the floorboards and the garden soil. Their story isn't just one of cruelty, but of how darkness can fester in the most ordinary of places, and how some houses keep secrets far beyond imagination.